currently unfolding in Spain. UN Secretary General António Guterres currently addressing the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development. It's essentially a gathering that allows delegates to dive into reform of the international financial architecture. Let's listen in.
World shaken by inequalities, climate chaos, and raging conflicts. The link between peace and development is clear. 9 of the 10 countries with the lowest human development indicators are currently in a state of conflict. Excellencies, financing is the engine of development. And right now, this engine is sputtering. As we meet the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, our global promise to transform our world for a better, fairer future is in danger. 2/3 of the Sustainable Development Goals targets are lagging. Achieving them requires an investment of more than $4 trillion a year. But this is not just a crisis of numbers. It's a crisis of people, of families going hungry, of children going unvaccinated, of girls forced to drop out of school. And we are here in Sevilla to change course, to repair and rev up the engine of development, to accelerate investment at the scale and speed required, and to restore a measure of fairness and justice for all.
Excellencies, the Sevilla commitment is a global promise to fix how the world supports countries as they climb the development ladder. I see 3 areas of action. First, we must get resources flowing fast. Countries must lead by mobilizing domestic resources and investing in areas of greatest impact: schools, healthcare, social protection, decent work, and renewable energy. Unlocking these investments requires strengthening tax systems and tackling illicit financial flows and tax evasion, and helping developing countries dedicate a greater share of their tax revenue to the systems people need. The Sevilla commitment calls on developed countries to double their aid dedicated to domestic resources mobilizations to support this. Multilateral and national development banks must unite to finance major investments. And this includes tripling the lending capacity of multilateral development banks and rechanneling specially drawing rights that can unlock lending capacity and help developing countries boost investments. And we also need innovative funding solutions to unlock private capital. Solutions that mitigate currency risks, that combine public and private finance more effectively, and ensure the risks and rewards of development projects are shared by both the public and the private sectors. And that ensure financial regulations assess risk appropriately and support investments in frontier markets. Second, we must fix the global debt system, which is unsustainable, unfair, and unaffordable. With annual debt service of $1.4 trillion, countries need and deserve a system that lowers borrowing costs, enables fair and timely debt restructuring, and prevents debt crises in the first place. And the Sevilla commitment lays the groundwork with other aspects by also creating a single debt registry for transparency and promoting responsible lending and borrowing, by lowering the cost of capital through debt swaps and debt management support, and through debt service pauses in times of emergency. And third, we must increase the participation of developing countries in the institutions of the global financial architecture. the present major shareholders have a role to play, recognizing the importance of correcting injustices and adapting to a changing world. A new borrowers forum will give voice to borrowers for fairer debt resolution and fairer gap resolution, and to foster transparency, shared learning, and coordinated debt action. And we need a fairer global tax system shaped by all, not just by a few.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this conference is not about charity. It is about restoring justice and to facilitate the ability of all people to live in dignity. This conference is not about money. It is about investments in the future that we wish to build together. Thank you all for being a part of this important and ambitious effort.
I thank the Secretary General of the United Nations for his statement, and I now invite His Excellency Philemon Yang, President of the General Assembly, to address the conference.
So we've just heard there from the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres speaking at the 14th International Conference on Financing for Development. The idea here is to rethink the global financing structure, which in its current form, of course, is seen as being unfair on mostly the developing nation or developing countries, which really can carry the lion's share of the burden insofar as debt is concerned. Comes as no surprise then that Antonio Guterres is calling on multilateral institutions, including banks, to unite and unlock lending capacity in order to boost investment for everyone. They say that this particular gathering, Antonio Guterres says this, is about fixing the global debt system, which is unfair, in order to prevent a debt crisis. Antonio Guterres, interestingly enough, saying the conference is actually not about money, but about investing in a shared future, which is, I suppose, a different way of looking at financing and money. Ronald Lamola is leading South Africa's delegation to that particular gathering in Spain. We'll get you a sense of the country's contributions insofar as that is concerned, given, of course, South Africa's incredibly important geopolitical role, or I should say geo-economic role on the continent.